$5,000 each, putting toward each of your careers.
Good quality headshots.
A professional reel done.
Do you feel comfortable introducing your banker to Brandon?
Yeah, most definitely.
I think for the next call, let's focus on that debt to income ratio.
Okay. So let's talk about your homework. How did it go?
It went well. A lot of the areas that you gave us to work on, like the 401ks and SEP IRA stuff, we definitely dove down the rabbit hole of research for all of the pros and cons of that. We were comparing SEP IRAs versus Roth IRAs versus traditional IRAs, and it was IRA palooza. We did a lot of good research, and I think he actually opened his account.
Yeah, well, so I'm going to see my mom this week, and she has a financial, like one of her best friends, which it's kind of cool. Like just talking about this with you, Adrienne, has opened up conversations, I think, with like our families too, like us being able to talk about, hey, what can I do? What have you done? What do you wish you would have done at my age? You know? So I got to talk a lot with my mom over the last couple days about that. So I believe, with a friend of hers, we're going to open up an IRA. So that's what we got done with that. But then I also got to meet his financial advisor, Rod, and got to have a little phone call with him.
Rod, my investment banker, is planning on retiring soon. So he was like, it would be smarter to get in the ground with someone that is a little more fresh into the industry that can like grow with you, kind of a thing.
Oh, perfect. So your mom's friend sounds like maybe she will at some point help the both of you, which is great.
Definitely.
So how did the headshot and demo reel work go?
So I was on headshot duty. I looked up a bunch of headshot photographers. It's a very, very long process, but that's a good thing to have a bunch of options and a bunch of headshot photographers to kind of sift through and pick from.
It's LA.
Especially living in LA, you throw a stone and you got two of them. I narrowed it down to, I think, my top three that I've been comparing prices and seeing kind of which one is the best bang for my buck.
How much does it cost? How big is the range?
Been about mid-range. So they range from about $350 to $650, $700, depending on how many different looks you want, how long you want it to go for, all that type of stuff. So like say the headshot session that I have coming up, I'm going to pay about $350. The return on investments from getting my foot in the door and having those headshots catch their eye. I mean, if you book a cable network TV show or even like a streaming service TV show, like a Netflix show or something, it can pay well into the multiple thousands of dollars per episode. That's like a week and a half-ish of work, give or take. So multiple thousands of dollars in a week and a half for that $350 investment. I mean, that seems worth it to me.
Oh, how exciting. Okay, so I want to hear about Brandon's demo reel.
I narrowed it down to the company that I want to use. They do 1 to 2 minute long reel scenes for $995. But you get two fully produced scenes. I think it's a part of my package that I'm missing because it's pretty common to be asked for footage of yourself or to be asked for a demo reel.
Yeah, so you're stepping up on the career side. And it creates more expectations for yourselves, which is great. So this is great. So on the investment side, it sounds like you guys had your important conversations with the advisors. That's great. And on the income side, you're investing in yourselves. I'm really proud of you. Good for you. You guys did a lot of work. So for the real estate and saving towards a home, did you think through how much we need and back into how much we have to save for the down payment?
We talked a little bit about it. I have been debating the choice between renting versus owning and buying property.
That's a really good question, renting versus buying. Here's how I would think about it. Add up all the costs and look up what the property taxes would be. And just add up property taxes, monthly mortgage cost, and all of the utilities and see how much that is.
I bet it's expensive.
Yes. The amount you put into the mortgage that's paid to the bank, especially in the beginning, the interest, you get a tax deduction, but it's not being put into your home. It's not saved. You don't retain those assets. And property taxes are the same. And especially now with the cap on $10,000 of either mortgage, interest, or property taxes, you're limited in your tax benefit from it. So think about all of the overhead costs of having a house and compare that to, okay, this is how much we pay for rent. And included in that is we don't pay home insurance, we don't pay mortgage, we don't pay property taxes, we don't have to pay maintenance, we don't have to pay upkeep, we don't have to get a new roof or a water heater, we don't have to pay utilities, landscaping. So a home's a pretty expensive asset to have. And sometimes you might be better off renting, especially if you guys are younger and you want the mobility. I mean, you could probably, as your income grows, think about it, you could move all over. You could find a great loft in New York and rent it. You could rent a great loft when you're back in LA. You don't necessarily have to own something. So great work. You did a really good job. You both did, actually. You both did a ton of work. So the next piece of homework, it might be a bit daunting, but it'll push you out of your comfort zone, which I know you guys are used to and you like. And it builds on what Brandon already did, contacting his mom, talking to her about his finances very specifically, and then talking to his mom's financial advisor. So the next challenge is you guys are both going to talk to another couple about your finances. So it's not an advisor like me. It's not a family member. It's not someone that you work with or know personally. It'll be a complete stranger.
Huh.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi guys, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. How was the past week for you guys?
Enlightening, I think. This is the first time that I've ever sat down and actually wrote down all of my monthly drafts and everything that come out of both my credit card and my checking account. And I'm like, oh, that's where all my money goes. Good to know.
It's the same for me too. We found a couple small things here and there that actually helped to get on paper. And now I feel a lot more confident how we're going to deal with our finances in the future.
This is Kara Stevens, founder of Frugal Feminista, and today we are talking about debt elimination strategies. The first method is the debt snowball method. With this method, you pay the minimum payments across all of your balances, and then any extra money you throw at the balance with the lowest amount. Let's just say, for example, you have 3 credit cards, one with $100, $200, and $300. What you do is you pay the minimums across all credit cards, and then any extra money you throw at that one with $100 until it is gone before moving on to the debt with $200. The second method is a debt avalanche approach. Similarly, you pay the minimum payments across all of your balances, but rather than pay more towards the balance with the lowest amount, you pay more towards the balance with the highest interest. Why? Because more interest means more debt. The balance was $200, let's say that had the highest interest rate. So what you do is you pay the minimum across all, and then you throw any extra money at that balance with $200 until moving on to the next one.
How are you feeling when you were actually going through the budget exercise, and what are some trends that you've noticed about your spending?
I don't know, it was overwhelming because I was like, oh, I spend a lot more than I think that I do, because in the past I've always just not really thought about it. If I'm spending a little bit of money at Starbucks or buying a shirt here or there, I was like, oh, I have that in my account. As long as my 2 big bills are paid for, then it's fine. And then I, didn't realize or forgot somehow all the other little bills that come out of both my credit card and my checking account.
Let us talk about action. First, I need you to forgive yourself. Any financial mistakes that you've made to get yourself into debt, what's done is done. Let's move on. Second, get clarity on how much debt that you have. You can use an old school pen and paper, an Excel spreadsheet, or even an app to get the numbers so you can start making an action plan. Step 3, think about which method are you going to use first. Is it the debt snowball method or the debt avalanche? It doesn't make a difference, because as long as you're moving toward eliminating debt, you're moving toward eliminating debt. And the next step, I want you to think about a timeline. What makes the most sense for you in terms of eliminating this debt? Is it 5 years? Is it 5 months? Whatever the timeline is, make sure that it is a timeline that has compassion and is kind to you, because you do not want to feel stressed or feel guilt or feel ashamed while you are getting out of debt. And before you know it, you'll be on your way to being debt-free in no time.
And it was helpful last week when we were talking about the hybrid system. Before, we mentioned all of the extra money that we had that wasn't going towards bills, we would put all of that towards debt instead of having any savings for it. So instead we went back through it and actually budget out savings as well. So not only are we paying off, our credit card debt and some of our other debts, but we're also taking some of that money and putting it to savings as well. So it's nice to see like little by little, we can still also save while we're paying off the debt.
Yeah.
And then before I had actually cut off the amount that I was putting like in investments or anything like that, but we took your advice as well for that. And I ended up adding that back to the budget. And then we haven't done it yet, but we're planning on maybe taking out some of our investments to help pay for the debt. But like you said, probably not going to put the whole thing, just take out a little bit just to help us kind of take a step forward.
And I did notice that you calculated the debt to income ratio as well. I saw that it was several different ways you calculated it, so that was great. And it looks like it's right around that 28% mark that we talked about.
We did multiple different calculations for debt to income ratio because while we were doing it, I was like, do like our car payments count? So we did one with car payments, one without car payments, one with my student debt, one without my student debt. And like, it was, vastly different every time.
It's just confusing.
Yeah.
Like, to know which ones fall under the right category.
I was leaning more towards the ones that were lower, obviously. But
we had to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah, we had to be honest with ourselves. It ended up being fine. Like, not ideal, but like, it's okay.
I think you guys have the foundation to, really start making some really good progress. You guys have made some changes within your budget and within your spending habits that will now at least allow you to have a system in place to start to, number one, build up that savings account, and number two, start to reduce your debt. So that number three, you can qualify for a home.
Yeah, I do feel a lot better about just my budget in general.
I think the biggest thing is just automating it. Like, the less work you have to do on it throughout the day and like throughout the week is so much better. Mm-hmm. Like, the fact that we were able to set it up like that, I just feel so much better because I'm not like, oh, do I have to check and see when do I have to make a credit card payment? When do I have to do this? Like, do I have enough in this budget?
Yeah.
Like, now most of it, at least like 90% of it, is just all automated. And I think that's like the biggest thing that, at least for me, was super helpful, because now I feel a lot more confident that there's not as much uncertainty as there was before.
Well, before we leave, guys, I do have one more challenge for you. It's a little bit different than the first challenge. So I've identified a couple that I would like for you guys to actually meet, and instead of talking to me about your finances, now you're going to talk to some of your peers, and you'll be able to talk to them about some of the financial lessons that you're learning, some of the pain points that you're finding out about your budgeting and your financial management. And then we're going to meet again to talk about how that discussion went. What do you guys think?
I'm nervous. I know. I'm nervous. We don't really talk to our peers about our finances, so a little nervous, but at least they had to do it too.
Hello.
Hi.
Guys. Hi, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Grant.
I'm Dallas.
I'm Dennis.
Nice to meet you.
Where are you guys at?
We're in Nashville, Tennessee right now.
I love Nashville.
We're in Los Angeles.
We actually just moved from there like 6 months ago.
No way. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Are you liking Nashville?
It's
So
good. A lot more calm than LA for sure.
Definitely. So what was your guys' experience?
It has helped so much.
Yeah, 100%.
He has like a whole spreadsheet for his budget, like always has, and I haven't really. And like, it kind of helped me to write out every single thing that I spend money on, because I kind of am like, okay, I have these 2 big bills and I'll just kind of like keep those top of mind, and the rest is kind of like, oh, whatever. And actually writing down everything that comes out of my bank account, I was like, ooh, that's where all my paychecks go. Yeah. What about you guys?
We had a financial advisor named Adrian, and she was amazing. She definitely focused more on the investing side of things, more opposed to the budgeting side of things. So she was just sharing with us all of these different tools that we can use, all of these different avenues we can go down for investing, like different IRA things, different 401ks, like the standard issued ones, and seeing which ones are best fit for us. She gave us a lot of homework to do outside of our interactions, where we were able to research some of the stuff for our own and see if it was a good fit for us.
It was nice just to have somebody to like help know where to start. That was like a big thing I talked to her about a lot. Was I always wanted to like start investing, you know, and I just never knew where to begin. So it was kind of nice to talk to her about that stuff too. Cause you know, you can ask anybody and they're going to give you an opinion about, oh, try this one or that. But to be able to talk to a financial advisor and get like, you know, top tier.
Someone who's like actually an expert, not someone who's like a self-proclaimed expert. Yeah.
I know. Exactly. If you go to a dinner party, everybody's going to give you some advice. All of a sudden, everybody's like a Shark Tank investor. And they're like, try this one, try that one.
I feel like we were in the same boat, but like not in investing. Like we're trying to think of like ways to save our money, like to save up to buy a house. We want to do that relatively soon. So we kind of got good advice on how to lay the groundwork and what kind of options we have as first-time home buyers and stuff like that.
Yeah. What was the advice they gave about that, about saving? Because that is something we definitely need help into, saving.
I think for us, like we were really focusing on the debt aspect, which is obviously important too, but we weren't putting like anything towards savings, and they really helped us get a perspective on, you can do like a hybrid version where it's like, yeah, you can put, you know, maybe 90%, 80% of your money that's extra going towards paying off debt, but you can also put a little bit towards savings at the same time. So I think we're kind of stuck in the mindset where we're trying to always pay off debt, which is good, of course, but then we always felt like we never had savings, and it was just like scary if any of these random expenses came up, for example.
We were like, oh, we have to pay off our debt first before we save. And I don't know why. It was just such a black and white thing for us. And our financial advisor was like, no, you can do that all. And we were like, oh, okay.
It's such a light bulb moment. I feel like I struggle with that too. You know, a little bit at a time, you can take care of all of it.
Yeah, and now figuring out your savings and how to like save more money. You guys were talking about becoming homeowners. What has that experience been like? What's kind of the time frame for you guys, or ideal? Tell me everything.
I mean, before it was like, oh, we don't even know, but now I feel like it's maybe in like the next couple of years or something like that.
Yeah, probably 3 or 4 years, which would be really nice.
Tell us more about your investing advice.
Yeah, so I think a big part of why we were talking about investing so much with our advisor is because I am investing in stuff currently, and I just need all the help I can get.
And then a big thing we talked about a lot that I really loved was talking about investing in ourselves in big ways and in our careers. You know, we're both actors and we have other jobs as well, but it's kind of funny, like, you know, there were all these things we had a list of that we had been wanting to do to help advance our careers, you know, really basic things, but some bigger things too. The return you get on doing something like that for yourself, whatever your career is, from being a realtor to a doctor to an actor, it's like there's something you can do to help advance yourself.
I feel like we have felt like similarly, because when it comes to like our passions, I feel like we have that same kind of block where it's like, no, I need to spend that on my credit card, or like, but then you end up feeling bad and not doing it for so long that you then like kind of splurge and spend more than you need to, or at least that's what's happened with us. And our financial advisor kind of did the same thing and was like, no, like that's okay, as long as you like are taking care of the other things. Like you don't have to bulk pay off all of your debt. As long as you're paying off what you need to pay off, then you can also spend that extra money on your passions and your goals. I feel like the way we thought about money was so negative before this experience, and like we were just so bogged down by like all of the bills that we had and all of the debt that we had to pay off. And now I'm like not constantly thinking about it or stressing about it every time I buy something. I'm like, oh no, it's fine, I've got this.
Something that helped us too, like on the budgeting front, and why we were focused on that, is because there was like some outlier things that we actually didn't have on the budget, like subscribe and save stuff like that we have coming in every month, and we just like we're like, oh, that'll just come out of the fund budget at some point, or it'll go on the credit card and I'll pay it back at some point. But instead we actually included those in our budget now, and now we have everything budgeted out like down to the dime.
So now we know exactly how much we have extra to spend, so it's like I'm not concerned.
You don't have to like second guess it. Or like now we actually created a pet fund too, because we have some pets, so for medical bills and things like that would just randomly come up, and we would have to like either put it on our credit card or go into our savings. But instead now there's a budget for that as well, so we had to take our cat to the vet and was able to just pay with that budget and not have to be like, oh my god, God, how are we going to pay this? When should I pay this and whatnot? Did you all ever decide like on the investment front, like exactly what your plan is for now? Or are you still kind of exploring your options for the time being?
I would say definitely exploring our options. We're still young, so finding ways to diversify everything that we can.
On the diversifying front, I'm curious, like, what specific advice you got around that, because I feel like I struggle with that too in terms of diversifying, kind of what you said earlier.
Our financial advisor was talking to us a lot about different IRA investments, like whether to do a Roth IRA, standard IRA, or she just told us about this thing called the SEP IRA, which is for like the self-employed people such as ourselves.
It's really for like people like us. We're all self-employed,
it is,
especially she was saying like for artists too. So yes, a SEP IRA that I believe you can't pull out until you're
59 and a half years old. So it's kind of the money.
So specific. What's the difference between that one and a Roth IRA?
That is a good question. I am currently investing in a Roth IRA, so I should know more about it and the differences to it.
I'm the same way, though. I just opened one too, so.
Did you?
Awesome. That's so cool. Did you do standard Roth or?
I did the standard Roth IRA. He already had one, and I was like, well, I guess I should open one too. I'm so glad we got to talk to you guys.
I know. I'm so happy we got to meet you guys too. I mean, just like big picture things. What's the big takeaway?
I personally feel like I have a lot more peace of mind when it comes to my finances. Like, I just feel like I used to stress about it all the time and stress about where's my money going? Do I have enough money? Living paycheck to paycheck, both of us living paycheck to paycheck, being like, I don't know how we can juggle all of these finances and like everything that we want to save up for and all of our debt. And I feel like now we have a concrete plan for the future.
For me personally, it's also about the fact that our goals, we were always like, oh, like someday we'll do that. Someday we'll do that in the future. But now we can actually start to think about them. Like for me, I really want to open a coffee shop at some point in my life. And I was always just like, yeah, I'll do it someday. I'll do it someday. But now I'm actually starting to work on it and like come up with like financial plans and thinking about how I can actually do that. And, you know, after we get our house and stuff, but still, like at least I'm finally taking those steps, and instead of being like
it doesn't seem so far away. It's like, oh, I can actually plan for this, like physically and financially.
Yeah, just get started on it.
What about you guys?
Just believing anything is possible if you get organized and you get a plan. So much of it is, you know, a mindset of how you have to look at money and thinking of money in a positive way and a bountiful way.
She definitely talked about just really mapping out a plan and making everything seem reachable and attainable, because like he was saying, I'd always thought that doing these extra things to kind of fulfill myself and to advance my career cost a lot of money. So I was like, I'd rather save it up, invest it, and then use it later when I have more money. But really using it now and figuring out a plan that you can do to kind of have the best of both worlds. You can invest a little bit and you can invest in yourself a little bit, which is extremely important.
I feel like that was always like the bottom of the list. Like it feels weird to say it out loud, but it's just like that was always the last thing. And then we always just had this anxiety, and anytime we wanted to like actually invest in ourselves, I'm always like, oh no, can we? Like, I'm so anxious about it. Like I'm just thinking about that the whole time.
If we do this, can I afford this bill? Or can I like,
Yeah, but now that we've set that plan, like sat down together and do it, we keep each other accountable about it too. It's not just like, oh, I don't want to spend that because like that makes me nervous or like I don't feel comfortable. It's like, no, this is exactly how much we have to spend. We've used this much so far, so this is what we can do now. So either we can or we can't, but it's like a system that works for both of us together, I think.
I was nervous, honestly, to talk to another couple about our finances because we don't really talk to our friends about our money. It just seems like rude, I guess, to talk about your finances with each other.
Yeah, because, well, you don't know other people's situations either. With like social media being so present in everybody's lives, like you have to keep up this image of like, yeah, I have everything together. Like my finances are great. I'm thinking about all this stuff. I'm saving up, etc. But at the end of the day, a lot of us are struggling with that stuff. And I think it's nice to be able to talk to another couple about it and like have that transparency with each other and see like a lot of the struggles that we have are actually very
like
normal.
and like there's so many parallels, I feel like, especially with people in our generation, that like all
sure.
like we have all kind of gone through the same financial burdens, and like once you kind of open the door and talk about it, it makes it easier to deal with.
Yeah,
I agree. I definitely thought it was like taboo too at first, like something not to talk about kind of from growing up, but it's like you guys said, we're all going through it, we're all figuring it out as we go, and there's just so much knowledge to get from each other. So when we have these conversations, I'm like, whoa, it's super eye-opening, and there's always something you can get from somebody else's life that you can put into yours. And
well, I think people like our age are more open about their feelings in general. Like obviously our parents were very closed off and like taught not to share anything, and I think that people who are younger are like, no, screw that, I want to share my experiences and help people with them.
Well, it was so awesome to meet you guys and just to get tidbits of information and stuff that I know we're going to take into our lives. And hopefully you got a little bit from us too. But it was, we were nervous about meeting another couple, but I feel like we hit it off.
Yeah, it was so nice to meet you guys. Like, honestly, I feel like I learned so much from this experience because, like I said before, like I was super nervous to talk to another couple.
Me too.
Yeah.
But
we talked about it all week. I was like,
we were like, oh God.
Well, hey, we were lucky to get you guys. So thank you for everything.
We were lucky to get you guys.
Maybe look into getting additional life insurance.
I have this whole joke about life insurance.
Gentlemen, if you have life insurance, maybe don't tell your wife.